Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby. With me is Germaine Franco, the composer of Disney's new animated film Encanto. And one of the interesting things about, the task that you're assigned with this film is that it's a musical film and your score has to work alongside the original songs from Lin-Manuel Miranda. So I'm curious, what was that like working with him? Are you both sort of thinking of music at the same time, or are you waiting for his material to kind of respond to that? What is that dynamic?
Yes, well, he's an amazing composer, songwriter, storyteller, as you know. So it was just wonderful to work with him to start. But also, he had written most of the songs by the time I came on. So there was already the music, the musical structure of the film. And then I worked on writing the underscore and coming in and out of the song. So that, yeah, it was a lot of back and forth because we wanted to make sure that that was seamless going from score to song. So they were, because most of them were already written, my task was to then find a cohesive element that would tie the whole story together, which I did with an Encanto theme, which is what you hear in the first couple minutes. And then that kind of comes in and out and is varied throughout the film.
Yeah. Is it tricky to sort of find a unified sound between songs that have already been written and then you have to create something that lives alongside it?
Well, I think it's tricky, but we had the intention of making sure that it sounded, definitely it was Latino inspired, and also it took place in Colombia, so we used a lot of the same instruments. Like there are these guitars called tiplas and bandolas. I used the harp, the Colombian harp, and so one of the ways to do that was to have a sound that had similar textures within the score and the songs. I mean, they're not exactly the same, but we used that was one of the elements that helped us have a cohesive sound, was using the authentic Colombian instruments and vocals as well.
Yeah, I'm always interested by the sort of instrumentation of scores, because is there a lot of experimentation for you? Do you get a sense immediately of what type of instrument you want where?
Lots of experimentation for sure. I always start on the piano and then I move to my template of instruments, but I do a lot of research, and then I start looking for textures and what certain combinations of instruments that work together. For example, the strings and the harp, they do this tremolo thing, and it gives a feeling of space when it has some strings, low strings underneath. And so I use that a lot, combine all kinds of different guitars like cavaquinho, charango, and it's sort of a silky, smooth ambient sound. So that was my sound for the magical realism partial. And then the other one, we're just combining flutes and drums and different effects on instruments, clarinet. What sounds would we hear in Colombia? And so I wanted to go there and get those kind of textures. So yeah, experimentation was key, because the animation wasn't finished when I got picture. So the animation keeps changing. And so you have to sort of keep developing the music as the animation gets fuller and fuller. And some of the things you can't really finish and see all the detail until they finish with the animation. So the answer is yes, a lot of experimenting.
So it sounds like kind of working up until the last moment then.
Yes, that's what happens on film scores. And then even when they're dubbing, sometimes it changed, but that didn't happen on this. I'm sorry. That was my alarm to make sure I called you. Okay. Anyway, yeah, with animation, it changes less than a lot of the live action where they're still cutting up until, the last moment. but animation is one of the genres where, as a composer, you don't have as many last minute changes.
And I think I read speaking of instruments, you spent a lot of time as a percussionist. Does that form a sort of base of your work? How does that lend itself to your scores?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have to say, yes, I started on percussion and drums and then piano, and I write on keyboards, but I think I have a basis of hearing lots of rhythms and then building on top of those. And that affects, rhythm and harmony and melodic, how I use my melodies. And I think I just try and do what I do best. And then I love full orchestra, and it's so fun to have whole orchestra playing your music and soloists. And so yeah, I started on drums and I still play. Like, I'm playing on the score, I'm playing the marimba, the chonta, which is a specific instrument that I had built for this score. It's from Colombia, and it's made out of a specific wood, and it's in the tradition of the Afro-Colombian music. And so because I couldn't go there, I had it built and sent here. And then I'm also playing some tambora drums. There's some drums with sticks and shakers and orchestral percussion. I'm like playing snare drum, which is kind of fun because Jared kind of dared me that he would come to the session if I would play while he was there to one of the orchestral percussion sessions. So I had to make good on my word.
When you were mentioning rhythm, and do you find that when you're looking at a scene, do you give like characters a specific rhythm or sound quality for their moments, or are you looking more at the overall kind of tone or emotion of a sequence?
Well, I think you look at the tone first. You try and find what is the intention of this scene, what does the director want to or directors want to portray, and from whose point of view. For example, when you see Mirabel kind of hiding behind the windowsill outside with the grandmother, when I first scored that, I was thinking of it more from the grandmother's point of view, where she's very sad and she's worried about her family and her house. But then the director said, no, it's got to be from the point of view of Mirabel. So then everything changed, because then that cue that I'd written from the emotional space of the grandmother, it didn't work, because I had to go back to what is Mirabel thinking. She's thinking, oh, I want to fix. She's surprised that her grandmother is praying to her abuelo. So you have to think of whose point of view, and then once that is established, then yes, there's rhythms. For example, the Mirabel theme is the cumbia rhythm, and it does the and she's always trying to find stuff, and she's always going somewhere and chasing after a story. So that rhythm became her kind of thematic motif. And Antonio, when he's getting his gift, there's a huge beautiful scene where you see the trees and the animals, and his room is bigger on the inside than the outside. And so that became this whole Afro-Colombian rhythm that I used for him. So yes, each character does have, not every character gets a specific rhythm, but the main characters do, in this I did assign some rhythms. But first, I'm looking at what is the overall emotion of the scene.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about those gifts too, because there's, for this family in the film, magic is kind of just a core part of their everyday life. There's sort of magic in the everyday with this house that comes to life and with their gifts. So how did you want to incorporate that element into your music?
Well, we talked from the very beginning about the idea of magical realism, which is a literary device used in a lot of Latino theater, Latin American theater, and also in literature. And the idea that there's a realm besides the one we're in now, and it's there and you can access it if you are quiet enough, or if you're aware. And so that was my task, was how do I get that sound of this specific magic? And it's not the fantasy, magic that we're so used to. It's a different kind of magical sound. And in Colombia, they do have places that are called encantos, where they're these enchanted places, and they're, I wanted to find that sound, and I felt like somehow giving a female voice gave me an intro to that realm. And so there's a choir that is used throughout with the themes, and then also I was able to record a Colombian choir. Thank you, Disney, for letting me do that. So there's this, a quality that, the voice has that takes you into another world sometimes.
Yeah. Well, speaking of female voices in Disney, it's a milestone because it's their 60th animated film from Walt Disney Animation Studios, but you have also now become the first female composer of any of those animated movies, and these movies frequently become classics in our canon. What does that stat mean to you when you hear that?
Well, it means I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to open the door for other women and women of color. And I just try not to think about it too much. It means things are changing. There's also a Latina producer, Yvette Merino. There's a Latina co-director and screenwriter, Charisse Castro-Smith. So, I'm not the only one. I'm one of many. And you see Stephanie Beatriz, you see this whole incredible Latino cast, great singers, great actresses, great actors. So the whole cast is all Latinx, and, wow, that's amazing, isn't it? So that as well is another big change that we're seeing in Hollywood.
Yeah. And I should mention, additionally, you were also the first Latina invited to be a member of the music branch at the Academy. So you have a lot of firsts going on for you at this juncture. And Encanto really has like a strong, it is a decidedly female Latina, perspective here on the music. And is that something that's really important for you to continue on other projects?
Yes. And, it's really great to be able to, find something you love and then be able to create in that, realm. I love working for film. I love animation. I love Latin music, orchestral music. So, working with an incredible collaborative team. So I felt it was a responsibility on my part to bring the Latina voice to the character through the music, and I want to do my best, job possible. And I also want to write films that aren't Latina based films, like for instance, Tag. It's a bro comedy, and I did it. And it was like, well, wait a minute. There's been other people writing for women for years, and no one ever said, oh, you can't do that because you're a male, so I think it should go both ways. We should if you're interested in, French music, but you're not French, you should still pursue that, because it's like saying, we can't be purists either, right? I mean, I feel like as an artist, you should be able to explore other cultures and other, genres. So I really enjoy representing Latino culture, and I'm also born here, so I feel like there's a lot of, you might have seen my work on a film called Dope. I love that film, Rick Famuyiwa, and it's hip hop, and it's, I love doing that programming and doing, like I did that with Tina Gordon Chisholm. It's like you don't want to feel like, oh, just because you are Latina that you can only do Latino things, because I think that's a box that people put you in, and I want to be open to doing many projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before I let you go, I do want to ask about one specific genre, this kind of genre of film, because you've actually worked on quite a number of animated movies, and many of them are animated musicals. Is there something that sort of speaks to you about the opportunities within this realm of storytelling?
I think it's the imagery and, the beauty of animation, and animators are another breed. They're very detail oriented, and I don't know. I think I feel that animation gives you the opportunity to really, flex your muscles as a composer, because you really have to, fill the space. A lot animation films have often score that's wall to wall. Action movies can get by with, a little bit less, but mostly animation movies have a lot of score. And I think I just have to thank my mentor, John Powell, who, was the person that, put me in a room and showed me how to do it. The first film I worked on with him was Happy Feet, which had, 200 songs in it, and working on How to Train Your Dragon and How to Train Your Dragon 2 as an assistant to him, and as an orchestrator, and just being able to see how it's done. I think maybe I just picked up those pieces and ran with it. I mean, I did worked on Book of Life, and with Gustavo as an additional composer, and then Coco writing a lot of songs. I just love it, and it's really fun, and I'm really thankful that that you asked about it, because it's important that people see all kinds of people doing this work. And I can't thank you enough, and Disney, because it's a really good, great opportunity. And Byron and, Jared, they believed in me, and so did Disney, and they've been really supportive. So yes, I am the first woman, but I'm not the last.
Well, that's a great way to put it. Can't wait to see what you do and what comes next. It's amazing work on this film. If you're out there watching, make sure you subscribe to Gold Derby. Keep in touch with us throughout this season. And Germaine, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you so much, Sam. Goodbye.